What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to be doing an NRL Halves Partners tier list. So, I'm going to be going through, going to be putting each individual halves pairing in a tier from S down to E. Few scoring criterias just to put out there so that everyone's sort of on the same page with how and why I'm putting these people in the spots they're going to be put. Sort of working off of the current success rate of the halves pairing this season, the team as a whole, but sort of has to focus on the half pairing. So the current success that they're having in the league this season, projected success, what I think they're going to achieve from what we've seen, and then just general player talent. So, for example, when I say player talent, you look at like a Jake Clifford and a Tom Dearden. Obviously, Tom Dearden's played a lot more footy. He's probably the better of the two. So when it comes down to player talent, that's a factor that makes that half pairing a little bit like not as good, because you might have one gun player and the other he isn't quite there. So without further ado, we'll jump straight in. We're going to kick it off with last year's grand final challenges, Melbourne Storm. And look, when these two are firing, they're hard to stop. And Munster looks like he's having a really good year. If he stays well, healthy, he doesn't get injured. I know Hughes has been out. He missed last week's game, and he's starting as the 22nd man this week. When they're both good and firing, man, they're a hard pair to stop. I don't really want to look into last year's success. I want to more look at this year and how they're going to go this year and how they've already played. And they've played some really good games, these two together, just this year. S tier. I think if there's an A tier, if there is an S tier, it's probably these two. Just both big names. When you look at the criteria. So you want to look at the criteria when I put these two where I put them. Because I'm not just putting them there because it's Melbourne Storm, it's Craig Bellamy, it's, we were in the grand final last year. No. You want to look at the player talent of either guy. Okay, Cam Murray speaks for himself. Okay, Munster speaks for himself. Yeah, last year was a bit of a shocker. He missed a bit of footy. He didn't probably play the best, but look at his success rate. Look at what he has done. Okay? So Murray, player talent, speaks for itself. Hughes, player talent, Dally M last year, carried the Melbourne Storm, in my opinion. He was a big factor into them getting to where they got to. So player talent is both there for both gentlemen. And then, just the form they've been in this year, it looks really good. Where I think they'll be at, if they can both get healthy again, then that S tier spot is truly deserved, and they might make it back into the grand final or a premiership, round top four sort of game, finals footy. Next up is the grand finalists last year, the premiership winners. One half of that pairing, it's Nathan Cleary and Jake Halves from the Penrith Panthers. Now, I'm putting them straight into B. And hear me out before we get the Penrith people here. And I'm not Penrith biased by any means. If this was a number 7, if we were only looking at number 7s, Nathan Cleary would be in the S tier, okay? But this is a halves pairing. It's a halves partnering. And, I'm not saying Joe Cole isn't the best 5'8" in the comp. I'm not saying that. And I'm also not saying that he's the worst. But he's just not Jerome Luai, okay? He doesn't make for that perfect matchup with Cleary. And maybe that's something they got to work on. So for that, they are in B, because maybe I can sort of see him in the future. Because Jake, he's put on some decent games. He's had his moments. And when Cleary was out, he kind of strapped on the boots and took the place. So I can see them progressively getting better as a team, as a partnership. But, You look at the criteria, man. Nathan Cleary, he's the guy with all the star power. J. Cole's got a lot to prove still. So, yeah, just that alone, it's sitting him at B. It's sitting him at B. Once again, if Cleary's by himself, chuck him in S, you know. Enjoy an S tier spot, but, you know, it's a halves partnering, and J. Cole, we just haven't seen enough from him for him to be an A or an S tier. So B tier, I think, is pretty good for them. Obviously, if Jerome Luai was in there, it'd be a different story. But up next, onto the Titans. This one might be a little controversial. Actually, you know, I was going to put him in A tier, but I think there is still more we have to see. Okay? From the Titans. From Jaden Campbell and AJ Brimo. There's still more we have to see there. Because so far, they're looking offensively really slick. They're a heavy attack side. They're both playing really good footy. But I think it's just too early with the inconsistency of the Titans to be putting them in an A or an S tier. C tier could almost be like I'm on the border between B and C. I almost made an outrageous take of putting them in A, just with recency bias. But once again, the criteria, you got to look like both these guys. Yeah, they're guns at the moment, but were they always that great? They were always like, you know, on the scales. And then you got to look forward. Like, are the Titans going to remain consistent? Are they going to play the best footy in the world? We don't really know. Okay, so chucking them in there, man. I think B tier is a perfect spot. Onto the Roosters. Roosters, I'm going to be putting in a D tier. Okay, some would argue for an E, but they beat Penrith. And Sandon Smith had a great game. Chatty Townsend's probably one of the key factors pulling them down. But they beat Penrith, and if they were like a Parramatta or a Dolphins, they haven't won a game, then they might be looking at the E tier. But, you know, D tier. Sandon Smith hasn't really had a great run. Chad Townsend not having a great run. You know, they just haven't been playing the best footy. They peaked with that Penrith game, and, you know, that's put them in a D spot. I think no one can really argue with that. I'm going to put Fogarty and Strange in the C tier. Because yes, I think they're really good. And C isn't bad. Before we jump on before we, you know, get angry about this for the Canberra Raider fans out there, that I'm putting your boys in the C tier. C tier is a middle ground, baby. C tier is not good, but it's not shit. It's mediocre. You're like, they're 2 or 3 good performances off being B or A tier, alright? And I'm a big Fogarty guy. I'm a big Strange guy. I like the Canberra Raiders, and they have looked pretty good. They played well in Vegas, but they've lost 2 games. Could be looking at losing a third. They need to turn something on. So, you know, you're already the player aspect of the criteria, you know, Ethan Strange. We've seen a fair bit of him last year, but still not there. Fogarty's up there as far as halfbacks go, but, you know, what we're seeing this season doesn't look great. They have their moments. And then looking forward, if they can't figure that out, then it doesn't get any better. So, C, I think, is a perfect middle ground for them. There's a lot of room to improve. And before I hear team bias, I don't want to hear team bias this, team bias that. I'm putting Jamie Humphries and Cody Walker in the A tier. Because for the first time since we played the grand final against Penrith, this halves pairing, since Renault and Cody, this pairing here is working. Okay, it's working. Jamie Humphries is playing incredible football. Okay, the stats are there to prove it. I don't have to sit here and try and persuade you into seeing the truth. Okay, the stats speak for themselves. He's playing incredible footy. All right, Cody Walker's coming into. That's why they're not S tier, because obviously there's multiple reasons why they're not S tier. Okay, but that's a key factor. All right, Cody Walker's a little bit on the. Some weeks he has his games, but right now he's firing. So we've seen a lot of good stuff from Cody this year, and I can only see him now that he's back in that number 6 position, he's on his comfy side of the field. He's always comfy in that number 6, okay? He looked like he was in the deep end with a blown floaty, okay, when he was playing number 7. He just didn't look at home. And he couldn't really tell if he really relied on Jack White and all that much to carry the weight of that number 6. But this year, Humphries has taken over in 7, and Cody's doing really well at 6 again. He's doing what he does best, all right? And that's just being a crafty vet, putting in the grubbers, and just setting up plays for them boys on the left edge. So, that deserves an A tier, in my opinion. That deserves an A tier. That's A tier footy. That's A tier footy, okay? Team bias, fair enough. I will take a bit of team bias here. If it's really affected you that bad, I'll take the team bias. But I like where the Rabbitohs are headed. I can see forward and see that they're looking good. They're looking good right now, and both players have sort of got that resume to where I'd be comfortable putting them in an A tier. But, say what you will. These two, D tier. They're winning games here and there, They're having close ones with South Sydney. They beat Melbourne Storm last week in round 4. But they just look like two puzzle pieces that someone has forced them together to fit. They don't look like they're really comfortable with each other yet. Ilias having, your head coach says that's kind of stuff about you after a game. That's not a good look. So, that's that. Ilias, man, I think he has the ability to be good, but right now he's just not great. And then same with Flanagan, we've never seen enough of him. So, the player criteria dumps him down. Haven't seen anything great from him, and I don't see it getting any better. So, D tier is where they're at. I'd almost be comfortable putting him in an E tier. Okay, and that's probably the most controversial one of the videos so far, because a lot of people were confident that the Dragons might have a good season with all this new recruitment and stuff, but I haven't seen anything that has wowed me. I don't plan on seeing any. I don't imagine it's going to get any better from now. And just both players just don't have enough aura. So, up next, DCE and the Rescue Dog. Gonna go on the B tier here. I just think it's so close to putting him in the A tier. I'm gonna put him in the A tier here. We're gonna start giving away a couple of higher ranked spots. Luke Brooks, DCE, man. I like this. I like them as a pair up. They've been playing good footy. They proved it last year. They're playing well this year. Brooksy and DCE, man. It's sad to see DCE leaving the club because they are firing in that half. Okay, it was almost outrageous I put them at B. It was almost outrageous. I just didn't want to liberally give away too many A's. But, no, I do see them being an A side. Both of them are proven players. DCE more so than Luke Brooks. Both of them play good footy this year. They're getting wins. I can see them getting better. I could almost see them beating Melbourne Storm this weekend. So, yeah, Brooksy and DCE is a pretty easy one to put at A. I just needed a chance to really think on that one. This is a quick and easy one. Dylan Brown, Dean Hawkins, man. I'm pretty sure that's his name. Easy E tier. Have not seen anything from him. Your number 7 is just looks like he's already wearing a Newcastle jersey. Like he just doesn't want to be there. I don't even know who the other guy is. So yeah, easy E tier. I don't see them getting any better. So yeah. Up next to the Tigers. I'm going to put the Tigers in the A tier. Well, I'm going to put the Tigers in the A tier. This is another really controversial one that we're going to have to kind of, take a little backlash for. But I think Jerome Luai's doing what he needs to do as a number 7. Probably not doing above and beyond what he needs to be doing, but he's servicing the needs that the Tigers were always asking for. And then Lockie Galvin, as long as Lockie Galvin's out there in that number 6 and he's got a good number 7 to pair up with, he just needs to play footy. He just needs to play the game, and he's doing that so far this season, and he's been looking good. So, Galvin and Luai. It's an easy A slot for me. It's bordering between B and A. If I had a bordered tier between A and B, like an AB, I'd chuck them in there. That'd be where they go. But I think they're just a little bit A more so than B. But if we look at the criteria, I think both players are, reasonably worth the A tier. They have played good footy. But do I see them getting better with Jerome Luai's season at risk? So maybe it will be a B tier. Maybe it will be a B tier because you've got to follow the criteria on this, guys. We're not riding in on our horse, shooting our guns, okay? We're not Wild West outlaws here. We follow the criteria. Jerome Luai is looking to be out for a while. That'll affect their season. If it's as bad as they're saying, I'm pretty happy to have them at B tier. Jerome and Nathan both at B tier. Up next is the Warriors. I like the Warriors being at B. Don't get me wrong, Metcalf's having a really good one. I think this is Harris Tavita. I'm not 100% sure on the Warriors halves pairing. A bit of a fraud, bit of a casual, if you will. But yeah, they've played good footy. They've played really good footy this season. Have actually sort of blown me away a bit. They've played great footy. I expect them to probably be a little bit hit and miss coming up because they haven't played the toughest of teams. They've played the mid-tier tough teams. They've not played the Melbourne Storms or the Manlys or the Penriths or the Bulldogs and stuff like that. So, I can see them maybe having a bit of a win-loss season. But they've started strong. It looks promising going forward. And just the reason they're sort of sitting at B is sort of both of them there's a lot to prove. There's a lot to prove. Metcalf's got big shoes to fill from Sean Johnson. And then, obviously, if this is Harris Tavita, I'm not sure. Sorry. He's also got a little bit to prove. I'm just sort of unfamiliar with him. I know he played last season, but yeah. Up next, Newcastle. C tier is just a quick and easy one. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense that these boys go in the C tier, like Jack Kroger. He's been around for a little while, a bit of a vet. Don't know too much about him. Never really seen him stand out, like stick his head across the line as the next big thing. But Fletcher Sharp, having a really good season playing in that number 6. He surprised everyone last year when he made a couple, off the bench performances, scoring big tries. Good winger, and he's an even better number 6. Sort of just for that reason I've got him at C, is the possibility that Fletcher Sharp is showing to be a club man and be like that Cameron Munster of the Knights. A bit of a crafty number 6 and get in there and play good footy and then win his team some games. So I like these two to sit at number C. They haven't had a great start to the season. They haven't had a bad one. I think they're 2-2, or a win and a bye, I'm not too sure. A win and a loss and a bye, I'm not sure. But they're not doing terrible. I can see them having some big games during the year, and just need a little bit more more notable. I need to notice something a little bit more from the boys. So for that's where they're going. Cows, Jake Clifford, Tom Dearden. If they were having a better season, they'd be sitting C tier. They'd be sitting that mid-ground. It could pick up for them, okay? It could. It started bad. Player ability, Dearden's got it all. As a number 6, he's got everything you want in a number 6. Jake Clifford, he had some mid-tier games last year. He actually had a really good game against Canberra. And I can actually see them getting better. I can see them having a better season. They're just having a slow start. Won't be a finals season, but they'll win the games they're not meant to here and there. They'll have a couple of highlights. So D tier is a pretty good spot for them, I think, up there with the Roosters. So Sharkies, this is a little, you know what? B tier is getting a little crowded, but I think B tier is kind of deserved for these two. I think the Sharks as a team aren't the pinnacle of rugby league. Okay, I think from the outside looking in, maybe from like a couple hundred yards away, you look at the Sharks and you go, oh, yep, that's a pretty good team. But within further inspection, upon further inspection, sorry, these two, the Sharks in general, they're just they're not as great. But you can't fault Nicho Hynes. I don't think he's a standout, Nathan Cleary, DCE halfback. I think he's got a lot to go still. He had a good season and a couple seasons, but he's got a lot to still go. He's still got to learn a bit. He's still got to play a little bit more footy. I can't fault Trindley's having a reasonable good start to the season. I can see them having the success. They've had success. I can see them having more. So that's an easy B tier, man. That's a really easy B tier. Right now, you just gotta know. Like, Dolphins. I'm gonna go Dolphins A tier. One's a bit of a rookie sort of player. I don't want to dwell on it too much. They're both sort of mid tier, but with the season they've been having, it's not looking good. Doggies up next, and you got to put the Doggies in the A tier. Burton always goes out there and proves himself. He's a good number 7, good number 6 rather. Sorry, he's a great number 6. He plays the game well. He's got a great boot on him, and so far the Doggies have been looking great. Without him, I will add, he's missed a few games, so that's something to look at. He really hasn't been active this season, so it's a little bit fraudulent putting him at A. But I seriously think, man, even when he comes back, they'll be playing great footy. But I see him playing better footy going forward. And, I mean, both guys, man. Both guys, I can't fault. This might come back to bite me. I might be putting my stocks into the Doggies too early, especially their halves pairing. But for right now, I think it's a pretty reasonable spot to put them. And then finally, the Brisbane Broncos. Might be a little controversy here, but they're heading up into the S tier with Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes. Look, all I got to say is goats. Benny Hunt, Adam Reynolds. Reynolds a premiership winner. Ben Hunt's, he's played Origin more times than I can count. He's just got that dog in him. He did a lot for the Dragons. He's doing a lot right now for the Broncos. I know I'm right now just going through history. I'm just looking at history with these guys. Okay? And this is a tier list. We're not looking for fossils. We're not looking for dinosaur bones. So I shouldn't be looking at the history. But the history cannot be ignored when it comes to these two. Benny Hunt, he's been playing great. Reynolds has been playing great. It's like having 2 number 7s on your team. The kicking game's outstanding. The offensive prowess that these guys have, that's backing up that Broncos team, that Broncos side this year. It's big. It cannot be ignored. Okay, as much as you might be against you may not be a Broncos fan. You might despise the Broncos, but you cannot look past the fact that they've got 2 of the best halfbacks in the comp right now in their halves. That's just simple rugby league to put them in the S tier. Okay. Their season's going great. They've both got unbelievable player records, player ability, and I can only see their season going up from here. I've said it many a time on the channel that I do see the Broncos playing finals footy. I do see them top 4. This is a good year to be a Broncos fan. So, but that's it, guys. That is my NRL halves partners tier list. So have a quick look. This is what we've come up with. Storm, Broncos, S tier, Rabbits, Manly, Bulldogs, A tier. I think so far that's all checks out to me personally. B tier, Penrith, Titans, Tigers, Warriors, Sharks. Obviously, B tier. We might come back and we might redo this at the end of the year and see how I went. Just off of going forward sort of stats. The criteria, how the criteria put this in. We'll come back at the end of the year and redo this. But Cleary and Cole, happy for him to be at the B tier right now. Do I see him improving? Yeah, that Penrith side and the coaching staff and everything, they do make great players. So I do see them getting better, okay? Even Cleary, I see him getting better. But as a partnership, I see him getting better. So, man, sky's the limit there. So they might make an A or an S tier. But then you got the Titans, who I think just have to show a little bit more before they get an A tier. Tigers obviously almost had that A tier. They were this close, but Luai, questionable with the injury. And then the Warriors, keep winning games, keep impressing me, make a top 8 or something. You'll get that A tier. Sharkies, just keep winning games. You'll win A or you might stay at B. C, Raiders and Knights. Yeah, same goes for the Sharks and the Warriors. Just win games, you might climb the list. D tier, same applies really. Win games, climb the list. And then, Dragons, Parramatta, and Dolphins. Win games, climb the list. But for the Parramatta Eels, Dylan Brown, you need to click into gear. But I just don't see it happening. So, yeah, that's it. That is the official Fighting Field Insights NRL Halves Partnering tier list. That's a mouthful. But that is it. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. And, yeah.